Alright, I wasn't going to make a video this weekend, but I've decided to because I just can't help myself. I'm out in my front yard messing around, and I had these low tunnels up here in the front, and they did really, really bad this winter just because of the snow. So as you can see, my house is on the south of this plot, so I get a lot of shade here. And but now the sun's coming in, so I've decided to put a caterpillar tunnel in my front yard, and I wanted to just kind of show you guys that one person can do this, pretty much everything except the poly. So I'm just going to kind of take you through step by step on what I'm doing. So the first thing I did was just pounded in my posts, so my rebar, so that's easy to do by yourself, right? Just run out your tape, and with these new caterpillar tunnels, they go in every 5 feet. So to assemble the hoops by yourself is easy, right? You just lay them out. The caterpillar tunnels come in 3 pieces, and this is what I really like about the design that Farmer's Friend did, is that normally the caterpillar tunnel, you just buy chain link fencing top rail and then you bend it yourself, and that I find that a hassle, and it's also it's hard to get them consistent, and it's also you know, means that you have to go and source that material out. And so these guys have a good source on this material, and they've split it into 3, which makes it easier for them to ship. And then you can get this whole kit at once, opposed to getting all this stuff and then having to tweak it yourself. So it's just basic assembly. So just putting these together by yourself is easy, and then moving them is where it's a little bit more complicated, but I'll show you how I've been doing it. That's it, and they just cave in because they're not as robust as this.
Well, I'll be curious to see it when it's
Yeah, you will. Have a great day. So here's a little tip when making these things. Well, the good thing is that Farmer's Friend send you the hardware for these things, but I've been building greenhouses for years from scratch, from just straight up materials. And the screws that you use to put metal together are self-tapping screws, but the ones that are really good are these Tex screws. So they have like a hex bolt on the end, and so you just need to get yourself a driver that can do those. The problem with I was using self-tapping screws that just had a Robertson end for many years, and I would always bust them. Like, I'd be going through the steel and the head would break off right at the end, and I experienced that even when I built my last greenhouse in the backyard. And these Tex screws are just so much better. What's great about them too is you get a driver that has a magnet in the end, and so you could be standing up and your screw is going to stay in there, so that's fantastic. But one thing I wanted to show you guys is just a simple technique on how to screw these. First of all, you need to have an impact driver, right? So this is just a DeWalt 20-volt impact driver. There's different types out there. These work fine for this application, but how to screw through metal is important. And so the way I do it is I get my screw on there, and the first thing I do is I put down some force, and I just do a couple quick torques of the drill. So little 3 spots like that, and that makes a nice hole, and then you can go through. If you sit there with your screw and just torque it right away, and you're just going, it takes longer and it gets hot, and sometimes you'll slip. And I see this when I see people doing this, but the technique's important, is just to do 2 little pushes to make that hole like that, and then finish it. And it's faster that way. When you're doing hundreds of these over and over again, these things really add up. Okay, so now you can see why I do the 45, so that I can have it go right to the edge. So see, I've got concrete here. If I was doing the normal caterpillar tunnel, I wouldn't be able to tie the plastic down in any way that would give it rigidity and strength against the wind. So that's the whole idea behind doing it this way. because I can put this rebar stake down directly underneath the center, and then my strapping will go between here and there and the second bow, and it'll be really tight, which gives it its rigidity. And these are going to go down on a 45-degree angle as well. Okay, so what I've done here is I'm just going to try and use what Farmer's Friend provide. When I did the other ones, I used a ratchet strap because I wanted to be able to really get this tight so that it holds really strong tension. But I think, well, what I've done is I've just tied a knot here and then run it to here. So when I tighten this, this will be pulling this bow. And so now I'm going to wrap it each one after that. Okay, that's good. That's really rigid. So I can tell it's really rigid when I move it. The whole thing moves. So I'm happy with that. I just have a bunch of scrap pieces of channel lock around. So this is channel lock. People always ask about it. It's shaped like a C channel, and then the wiggle wire just goes in between that, and that's what holds the plastic down. So if I had one long piece of channel lock, I'd just channel the whole bow on the end, but I don't, so I can make do with three. So I got one piece that's about 6 feet long here, and then a few other two other pieces that will go near the bottom here, and that will secure the bow down. And then what I did is I actually took a grinder and I just ground down the corners of these a bit so that it doesn't tear the plastic when the plastic goes over it.
Gifted, that's for sure, putting together something like this, eh? So what kind of metal is this?
That's just galvanized steel.
Oh, okay, good,
yeah,
good.
Yeah.
Well, you know what you're doing, right?
Yeah. Figuring out as I go.
Oh,
thanks a lot, dude. Have a great day. So not bad for took me a couple hours to do that myself, and since I was kind of tinkering a little bit, it probably took longer than it should have. But see, now I think you can understand the reasoning behind the end bow is because I want my poly to go right to the edge of my space, because I'm physically limited by the space around me, be it fences, neighbor property lines, driveways, that I want it to go right to the edge. I don't have the ability to bunch the plastic up like the normal Caterpillar tunnel. So and the other part to the leaning bow is that there's less surface area for that poly to drape down in the wind. And so it reduces it by half, actually. And because it's even windy right now, like I wouldn't even be able to put the poly up if I wanted to, even if I had help. So this has less poly hitting the wind, and then it's like a car, you know, it has some sort of aerodynamicness to it, and then the wind will go over top of it, and I'll put down hi, talking to the camera. And then the wind can go over it. So you guys just witnessed a couple just people in the neighborhood coming to talk to me, and you know what? I've been doing this is my 8th year doing this, and it never gets old. I love chatting with people on the street because they always are just so fascinated by what we're doing. And it's funny because people often assume that people would have a negative reaction, but honestly, in my 8 years of doing this, I have never once had a person come up and go, "What are you doing?" And even though what I'm doing is quite extreme, I'm putting a greenhouse in my front yard. You know? And you might assume that some people would say, "Hey, what are you doing? You can't do that." But honestly, never had that. Even today, literally dozens of people have come by since I've been doing this and said, "Oh, what are you doing? Oh, super cool. Can't wait to see what you're growing." People just love it. So anyways, that's my weekend video, guys. Hope you found it helpful. Please hit the subscribe button and like and share the videos if you want to see more stuff like this, and click that little bell on the video. YouTube has recently changed their algorithm where you will no longer see my videos in your home page unless you click on that thing. So if you want to see my updates constantly, click on that, and we'll talk to you later.